Hello, my name is Mike Bartley. I'm CEO of TVS. Welcome to this interview with Dr. Graham in advance of our Intelligent Testing Conference. Dr. Graham is an independent testing consultant who's been in the industry more than 40 years, a lot of those years in test automation. She's going to give us insight into her talk on intelligent mistakes in test automation. Hello, Doc. Welcome.
Hello, Mike. Thanks very much.
Your talk is entitled Intelligent Mistakes in Test Automation. What do you
well, I've called it
mean by an intelligent mistake?
Yeah, I've called it intelligent mistakes. I mean, a mistake is when you do something wrong. The dictionary defines it as an action resulting from defective judgment, defective knowledge, or carelessness, a misconception or a misunderstanding. But that seems like the opposite of something which is intelligent, which is exercising good judgment. So I think an intelligent mistake is an action which is based on a faulty premise with the best of intentions, but in fact it doesn't work out as well as you thought it would. I mean, the alternative subtitle for the talk would be, it seemed a good idea at the time.
Okay, that's a nice subtitle. So can you give us an example of an intelligent mistake so we can get a better understanding, please?
Yes, I mean, I talk about 5 of them. I'll just pick up one point, actually, which is a lot of people think tools will replace testers. There's a common attitude from managers. We can reduce the number of testers once we have the tool. And it's true that the tools are able to do, especially if we're talking about test execution automation, which is what I will be talking about. And the tools are able to reduce the time taken for executing the tests by quite a dramatic amount. And there's an assumption that, well, therefore, the whole testing will reduce by that amount. But the problem is, when you automate the tests, you may well have additional tasks that you need to do because of the automation. You certainly will have additional tasks, and this will take additional time. You may find that because you're spending time automating tests, you're actually doing less testing than you were before. You need more skills for doing the automation, not fewer skills, so you may actually need more people or different people. Basically, the tools do not replace the testers, they support the testers. What they do is take away some of the mundane, mindless type of work and enables them to freeze them up so that they can do more test design, more exploratory testing, and basically become better testers and also, hopefully, happier testers.
Yes, we all want happier testers. So that's a very good message to give to people regarding automation. And a very interesting example. I'm interested now how do you actually first come to write this talk? What gave you the idea for this talk?
I think one of the things that kicked it off was I was at one of the STAR conferences in the States, and at lunchtime you sit at big round tables with about 10 or 12 people. Because I'm usually the last person down, I sit with people who won't on my control, and I meet some interesting people that way. And one of these lunchtimes, I sat down next to a guy who turned out to be from Britain originally, and he was a high-level manager, and I asked him whether he was doing any test automation. And he said, well, yes, we are, but I'm thinking of canceling it. And the reason, he said, was because it's not finding many bugs. Now, he had automated regression testing, and regression testing by its nature doesn't find many bugs. So he basically had the wrong objective for the automation. This is another one of these intelligent mistakes, by the way, expecting the automation to find lots of bugs. It doesn't. It runs lots of tests. Yes. So that's how, in fact, an earlier version of this talk, I actually called what managers think they know about automation but don't. But I decided that was a bit too rude, so I decided to call it intelligent mistakes instead.
Thank you. He's turned it down first. It's always interesting, those lunchtime conversations are always a good opportunity to network at a conference and find out new information about that. So it's an interesting story. When did you start in test automation?
Well, originally, when I was at college and university, I have a degree in maths. But I decided to go into the real world to see what that was like rather than become a teacher. And I was employed at Bell Labs in New Jersey. I'm originally from the States. And I was put as a software developer into a test group. So that's how I got into testing. And my assignment was to write a test execution tool and a comparison tool. So that's how I got into test automation, completely by accident with my first job. Then when we moved to the UK, because my husband is British, I worked for Ferranti and was always interested in testing. And I went to the National Computing Centre and wrote some guides about test automation tools. So basically all my working life I've been interested in testing and test automation. I think, by the way, that the tool that I wrote back there in the 70s may well have been some of the world's first shelfware, because I don't think it was ever used again after I left.
But it was a good idea at the time.
Yes, it was.
It's interesting that you actually talk. It's interesting that you talk about writing your own tool, because I wanted to talk to you about testers' ability to write code. Do you think that's the way the testers are going in the future? Do you think we need testers who can write code?
Well, that's interesting, because that's one of the things which is sort of a hot topic these days, especially at the conferences. And there seems to be a conception that the testers, I mean, I've heard people say, in fact, at the Eurostar conference a year or two ago, one of the keynote speakers said, testers, if you want to get ahead, learn to code. Now, certainly it's useful for testers to be able to write code, and I have nothing against testers who want to write code. What I do object to is the assumption that the only good tester is one that can write code. Now, if you're in an agile team and you're supposed to be multidisciplinary, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But if you're working as, say, a system or acceptance level tester at a large organization, you're part of a team of testers who know the business inside out, have never written code and don't want to, this attitude is denigrating your skills. It's saying being a tester isn't important anymore. It's only developers who are important. So I have very serious reservations with this sort of attitude towards the only good tester is one who can write code. Let me make it clear. I have nothing against testers who do want to write code. What I have a problem with is thinking that everyone is the same and everyone has to write code. I think this could well be damaging for testing.
Interesting. I like code as well. I appreciate your views on that. Are very interesting. Just to wind up the interview, please, Doc. I know you published 4 books, 2 of them in automation. Could you tell us what those 2 books are and what you're actually working on at the moment?
Yes, I've published 4 books. The first one was on software inspection with Tom Gill. Then this one on software test automation with Mark Fuster, which was published over 10 years ago, and it contains advice about how to do automation well. The first part of that book, although it's 10 years old, still has very sensible advice in it. We were keen and worked quite hard to make it timeless. The second half of that book was case studies, and when we decided to update the book a couple of years ago, we decided to start with the case studies. But that developed into a book on its own called Experiences of Test Automation. And it is literally that. It's full of case studies and lots of really good advice in that book as well. The other book that I've written was one to support the Foundation ISTQB. And that was written with Rex Black, Eric Bienendahl, and Isabel Evans for the first couple of editions. I'm not sure whether we're going to update the first half of that book, because what I'm working on now is with Saretta Gamba, who's one of the contributors to our Experiences book. When she read the rest of the book, she said it just jumped out at her, these are patterns. And so she put together patterns of test automation. And that's what I'm working on at the moment with Saretta. And we have a wiki at the moment, which is a private wiki, but people can be invited to join it. And we hope this will eventually either become a book or become a resource which will be useful to people doing test automation.
Yes, that sounds interesting. I read your latest book on test automation, and I can agree that yes, you can see patterns in there. That'd be very interesting. Well, thanks, Doc. Thanks for your time. All I can say really is that based on what you said, I'm really looking forward to the conference in October, and I look forward to your talk then. So thank you for your time.
Well, thanks very much, Mike. Thank you for inviting me to talk. I'm looking forward to being a speaker at the first Intelligent Testing Conference. Thank you.
Thank you.